This is Sony's latest PSVR 2nd generation, and it's extremely impressive. The texture, the controllers, everything just feels solid. But how does it compare against the ultimate VR headset, Morgan? That is the Quest 2. Let's go ahead and compare the two. I finally have my hands on both of these two devices, and I spent already about 8 hours on gameplay with the PSVR, trying out two popular games, Horizon, and also a couple of demos here and there. And the ingenuity, the design, the technology, the comfort, it's super impressive. I really do like the eye tracking capability. But the Quest 2, I still enjoy it due to the fact that it's fully wireless. And it's on the latest firmware update, which means it has more interaction with your fingertip controls and take advantage of more modern features that VR headsets now have. So first things first, let's talk about specs. Start off with the PSVR 2. It's an OLED display with an FEO of 110 degrees. The resolution per eye is actually really impressive, much higher than the Quest 2 as it's 2000 by 2040. It has a refresh rate that could go between 90 to 120, which is perfect for like Gran Turismo style games. It does have expandable storage thanks to the PlayStation 5 capability to now be upgraded with an M.2 SSD, which I've actually personally done. Tutorial on how to do that on your PlayStation. Video is right over there. It does not, however, have PC support like the Quest 2. And as time making this video, there's no third-party software that allowed this VR headset to be used for PC gaming. And the specs primarily are the specs that the PlayStation 5 has. Now the Quest 2, it is using LCD display. It has an FOV of 100 degrees, slightly less than the PSVR, but the refresh rate can go actually low to down 72 Hz all the way up to 120 Hz. It comes available in two storage options as time making this video, 120 gigs, or you can settle with the 256 gigabyte model. A 64 gigabyte model can be purchased used, as that was available but is now discontinued. But there's no expandable storage, which is a massive con, especially since modern VR games are taking a lot of space. So I would personally advise to get the higher end 256 gigabytes if possible. Now the processor, since this is a wireless headset, it is using Android as it does have a Qualcomm Snapdragon XR2. It is a 2-year-old processor, but it is very modern even in today's standard, especially when it's combo with a 6 gigabytes RAM memory. So everything typically runs fluidly unless you have 4 things running at once. That's when the VR headset, I noticed, personally struggles. But when you plug it into a PC, wired or wireless, it's basically using your PC specs. Now comfort wise, the PlayStation VR 2nd generation, in my opinion, it's a lot more comfortable even comparing it to the Quest Pro, as there's so many different positioning. The silicone gasket that it has going around does an amazing job blacking out and preventing lights from getting in, and I could fit my glasses in here just fine. Your IPD is automatically dialed and adjusted from the software thanks to this eye tracking capability, but you do have a manual dial right here to adjust in case you do have to. The locking mechanism for the Halo ring is phenomenal, super solid and comfortable, and it does have a built-in microphone, as well as an aux cable to plug in external headphones or over-ear headphones. And after several hours of gaming, I have no complaints in terms of like balancing issues or anything like that. It doesn't feel too top heavy. It's actually balanced right. And when you put it on the scale, this is a weight. And when you compare it to the Quest 2, that's the weight. But even though the two are slightly off by weight, they're still very comfortable to wear. Just the standard strap that the Quest 2 comes included with is highly suggested to be swapped with a better one, because the strap, this one in particular, is super uncomfortable. I do not recommend. So a lot of people recommend to upgrade to the Elite strap like I have right here, or other third-party ones. One that I'll personally recommend is the Kiwi Design Comfort Head Strap is what I'll strongly recommend. I'll have them both linked in the description. But the IPD slider can only adjust to like 3 different levels. And since it doesn't have eye tracking capabilities, I rely on using a third-party app to scan my face to give me my exact dial that I need to adjust the VR headset IPD to my facial preference. I'll have that link in the video description down below. It utilizes Face ID, so it's really accurate. So the pros and cons. The pros and cons between each headset is quite interesting. Let's start with the Quest 2. It's a lot cheaper since you don't have to buy a computer of some sort to have this VR headset tethered, as it's fully independent. Just even though it does have a $399 price tag, You have to buy additional accessories to really make this thing comfortable, but out of the box, it is cheaper due to the fact that with the PSVR, you have to make sure you already purchase or own a PlayStation 5. And another pro that the Quest 2 has is that it does support night vision. If you actually purchase a IR illuminator, like this little accessory right here, also linked in the description, this basically allows me to actually roam around my house without any lights on and use this as a night vision goggle. And then if there's a PC VR game you want to play from like a third-party developer, you have the full freedom to connect this to your computer, either wired or wireless, or own a PlayStation 5. And another pro that the Quest 2 has is that it does support night vision. If you actually purchase a LiDAR sensor, like this little accessory right here, also linked in the description, this basically allows me to actually roam around my house without any lights on and use this as a night vision goggle. And then if there's a PC VR game you want to play from like a third-party developer, you have the full freedom to connect this to your computer, either wired or wireless. It does indeed support cloud storage, so if you do run out of storage, you can actually now delete that game and re-download it later on. And Guardian mode is also supported on the Quest 2, which prevents you from violently smacking your TV or running into people or objects while you're gaming in VR, and will allow you to actually see your surroundings since it does have external cameras, so you can actually navigate around their household to grab a drink or something like that without you having to take off your headset. This feature works extremely well, and I love it. And in terms of additional settings, if you like to manually adjust certain things, it is an Android device, so you do have the freedom to basically adjust anything, especially when you toggle developer mode. The PlayStation VR doesn't have this, of course. Now, the controllers. I really do like the controllers of the Quest 2, the Touch 2 controllers. It has nice vibration feedback. They're really light and comfortable. They're not as bulky as the PlayStation VR, and they do indeed support like finger placement tracking whenever you're playing your VR games. This ring actually does the finger tracking of your thumb. But in terms of toggles, it feels like normal toggles. Nothing too impressive. But if your controller's dead and all you want to do is watch something on Netflix or something like that, you do have hand tracking support on the Quest 2 where you can literally just turn on the VR headset without your controller and navigate and play some even supported hands-free games, or hand tracking games, I should say. Now, another accessory is highly recommended for the Quest 2 is rechargeable batteries, because by default, these do not come with rechargeable batteries. They come standard with AA batteries, which is why I strongly recommend purchasing this Anchor dock, which basically allows the VR headset to wirelessly charge everything wirelessly. Again, even though it's cheaper than the PSVR and the PlayStation 5 in total, there's some accessories that's required to actually purchase to really have a positive experience with the Quest 2. So in reality, my headset and everything with the accessories is about $500, which is the same cost as the PSVR. Now the con with the Quest 2 is, for starters, the Quest 3 has been recently leaked, and it's said to be coming out later on at the end of this year. Another con is, once more, there's no expandable storage on this device, and it's battery powered. A single charge typically will last me an hour or 2 hours, but if it's low on batteries, it's not the end of the world. You just have to plug it into a very long cable. You can still game having it plug in against a wall while you're playing your VR game. So it's not the end of the world if it's on low batteries. You just have to plug it in while you're gaming. And then the other con is the metaverse is weird. I'm not going to focus on that. We're just strictly focusing on the hardware and the gaming aspect of things, the way VR should be played. Now the pros with the PSVR, the things I do like. The screen door effect is actually gone compared to the first generation. It's a significant upgrade from the first PlayStation VR headset to the second, as it still continues having OLED panels, but these OLED panels are much clearer than ever before. It still is kind of blurry, but trust me, it's significantly improved than the first generation. I have no complaints when it comes to gaming. The controllers are amazing. These are my favorite controllers, even though they're a little bit bulky, but they're just done right. As the trigger actually has trigger haptic feedbacks, and I'll compare the haptic feedbacks to like a Nintendo Switch. It has eye tracking support, and it's done correctly because games actually do take full advantage of this, especially Gran Turismo. The eye tracking capability is just phenomenal. Like this horror game that basically every time you blink, these creatures just start moving, so you gotta control your blinking. And the PSVR, out of the box, when you pair it with the PlayStation 5, the specs, the hardware, is much better than the Quest 2. It does indeed also have pass-through mode capabilities, so if you're roaming out your room, it will actually enable outside cameras so you can actually see your surrounding, and it will actually display everything on the TV. Unlike the Quest 2, which requires a Chromecast, But even in pass-through mode, it would just show a black screen. It will only show gameplay only. The PSVR will actually show everything that you see on the big screen. And then it also has Guardian mode, which scans everything automatically. And yes, you do have the capability to override if needed. Which is a very similar Guardian mode that's found in the Quest 2 that prevents you from running into furniture, walls, or your television. It has the same safety feature. And then PSVR does support 3D audio. And just like the Quest 2, it does also have a built-in microphone. The controller texture is super grippy as it follows the same theme that the PlayStation 5 controller has on the bottom. And then it also has cinematic mode, which also allows you to actually use this VR headset to watch Netflix and stuff on the VR headset without you having to necessarily power on the TV, because as soon as it's paired, you're done with the whole setup procedure. You don't really have to turn on your PlayStation 5 television. You can just turn on the VR headset. You can navigate your PS5 off the screen in cinematic mode. And even though the cable is really long, if it does get damaged, unlike the previous generation, this cable is indeed swappable, but it does require some disassembly and it does require a bit of skill. But PlayStation had proven by releasing this video showing us that it is indeed possible to replace this USB-C cable that it's tethered with if it does get damaged. But once you're done, storing this device away is really easy as it only connects with a USB-C cable, which you can use to have one single port in front of your PlayStation 5. And once you're done, you just simply unplug, and that's it. You don't have to fiddle with HDMI cords like we previously have, or deal with that big box. And just like the Quest 2 controller, this also supports thumb or finger tracking as well. Some games can really take advantage of this in giving you this cool animation. And then more about the controllers, it is using rechargeable batteries, but no docking station is included in the bundle, which in my opinion should have. So I highly recommend picking up the PlayStation docking station for the controllers. The straps unfortunately are not removable. That's a little bit of a con, but other than that, there's not a lot more cons I could think about. Other than the fact that once more, it's expensive, but if you already own a PlayStation 5, spending about $550 more for a VR headset might be actually worth it. It might make more sense than buying a Quest 2. Now the PSVR is using Fresnel lenses, which from my experience, they're good. There's no complaints here whatsoever. I think because of these lenses, the reason why my glasses actually fit in this thing just fine without having to purchase prescription lens. But I have noticed these do collect a lot more glare than your typical VR lens, especially compared to its pancake lens. So during cinematic scenes in video games, I've noticed it just gives me a little bit more glare, which sometimes ruins the whole VR immersion for me. And another con I want to highlight is I have noticed, even though the tracking capability is better than the previous generation, they'll need to use external cameras or anything like that, or light balls on your controller. If I actually raise the controller a little bit higher over the headset, it does lose tracking. So tracking isn't really as well compared to the Quest 2 tracking capabilities. And in terms of battery life for the controller, they do last about 4 to 5 hours. Meanwhile, the Quest 2, its controllers, even with the rechargeable ones, can last me about a week. Again, I wish the charge dock was indeed standard. So more to the story, I'm really impressed in both VR headsets. I truly enjoy both of them. I want to compare the PSVR to the Quest Pro 2 because that's what this actually feels like to me, especially when it has eye tracking capabilities. It's super advanced in that capability. So if you already own a PlayStation 5 and you want to get into the VR world, the PlayStation VR 2 would be the one I'll recommend since you already have the PlayStation 5. But if you don't, and you just want to start off on something, and you're mainly a PC gamer, I would recommend the Quest 2, since you could take advantage of PC gaming. So I guess it all depends on the user, really. But regardless, both of these VR headsets are amazing and are equal, especially when it comes to gaming. Of course, you have the Sony benefits with the Sony exclusives, if you go with the PSVR, but you have the open capability to use like Steam VR and stuff like that if you're a PC gamer, or even a big community gamer, because there's a lot more community games available on the Quest 2, which are actually really fun, and majority of them are free. Unlike the PSVR, you have to buy some of these since these are premium games. There's a trade-off between one and two. One is strictly community driven, and the other one is backed up by some really strong developers, which some are actually also available on the Quest 2, but not as much. So it's really a tough pickle when it comes to comparing these two, which one I recommend. So it's all really depending on you, the viewer. Which one do you personally think is best suited for you? Again, if you're a console gamer, you're going to be really happy with this, especially if you're already owning a PS5. If you like to experiment, try something new, or maybe you're already a PC gamer, the Quest 2 might be the best one for you. Other than that, let me know in the comment section which one of these two VR headsets are you personally going for and why. And again, all the accessories and stuff like that will all be linked in the description down below. Other than that, make sure you are subscribed because I'm planning on making a comparison video of the PSVR against the Pro. There you guys have it. If you'd like to know what kind of accessories I have on my PlayStation 5, I got it all blacked out. I've done a whole dedicated video right there covering every single accessory, including hard drive upgrade that I've done onto it. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. See ya.